The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
The 1420 Sports Bar Podcast, for beer, sports talk, and a whole lot more. Tonight's episode number 377 on this 26th day of February 2024. Tonight's show, as always, is brought to you by SeatGeek.com and the SeatGeek app. Use promo code 1420pod at SeatGeek.com today and save yourself $20 on your first purchase. Remember, we are part of the Belly Up Media Network. Go to bellyupsports.com for all their great sports articles and other great podcasts such as The Corner Booth, Rise in the Occasion, and my guys over there at Craft Brewed Sports every Tuesday night there. Mike, Mookie, and Scott put on a hell of a show over there at Craft Brewed Sports. They, if you like the sports bar talk and not a whole bunch of sports for the first 15, 20 minutes, that's a show for you guys. And they get into sports later on, but that's the one I quite enjoyed. And thank everybody who listens to our show, whether it be on the podcast forum or on YouTube. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day each and every day from all of us here at 1420 World Headquarters. Dave, I was driving by your shack the other day, and I saw that, not that it's a shack by any means, but driving by your house the other day, and I noticed you still have some Christmas decorations up still. Is that for maybe for just you're just leaving them up for decorations? Are you waiting until next year? Is Jasper just not doing it, or what's going on there?
Well, no, it's all the lights are down. We have now, we started last year, like we have hanging patio lights due to the riffraff that tend to lollygag in my neighborhood. Katie and I made the decision to keep those lights on and turn them on every day, just to illuminate the possible shenanigans that might go on our covered deck there.
Fend off the derelicts maybe a little bit.
And believe it or not, shenanigans have happened. I don't know if I've told the story, that 3 a.m. pillow snatching confrontation I had to have with people, but nonetheless, we have found that now that we have an illuminated deck, there's less riffraff. As to the Christmas decorations, it's just the garland around our posts. We have those columns. We decided to leave those up, and because it kind of has a nice wintry touch, and now that we're back in the fucking winter season, minus a million here in Lethbridge, Alberta, I think it's nice that you get a look at that. Yeah, I guess it's kind of wintry. They can have those up still.
Well, I had to laugh because I noticed one of my neighbors here out here in Squamish. He was taking he had quite a large Christmas display up still up until Saturday. I was like, holy! And he's finally taking it down because it was a pretty nice day. And then I drove by your house shortly thereafter. I go, yeah, not everybody got the memo to get their Christmas decorations down. But now that I know why it's up, there's some people still flick their lights on.
Yeah, and if you notice, like at the Christmas season, that garland was all lit up too. Yeah, it's not lit up anymore. It's just garland. It's just pine garland. I think it looks a little bit sharp.
Now that I know you're not being lazy, you're just adding to the wintry spirit, because there are some things around around February that gets a little bit doldrums. Now you're adding to the Christmas the winter spirit, not the Christmas spirit. Now I'm not besmirching you anymore because it was meant to be up. It wasn't that you were just being a lazy SOB.
Nope. The lighting is down. The festive illumination is in storage, and so we just decided to keep that garland up a little bit longer to add a splash of color to our normal dreary Southern Alberta winters.
Man, it's last night went out for a drink to just on Sunday night, kind of a cocktail, and the weekend off a little bit, and it was chilly, but it wasn't cold. And then woke up at whatever time today to get the day going, about 5 a.m. I looked outside, I'm like, holy, what the fuck happened here? Snow and cold and blizzard and wind and ice, and it all rolled. Like, it was, last week was super nice. The snow was melted off at the baseball stadium on Friday afternoon when I left work. And then it was done. And then today, I'm like, holy Christ, here we go again.
No shit. Like Jasper had a baseball tryout over at Lloyd Nolan, and they sent the kids outside, the pitchers outside to warm up. And this was at 5 p.m. on a Saturday. So, it was chilly, but they ain't sending kids outside to warm up at 5 o'clock here right now. This morning, like, you look out the window, it's like, fuck, got to shovel again. And then I take the dog for a walk first, and like, holy Christ. It's cold because there was a bit of a breeze, and it was decidedly unpleasant here in old sunny Southern LA.
Yeah, it reminds us it's still hockey season. It's going. Hockey season's off to. Watch a great game last night. We'll get into that a little bit about some guys who you forget played for certain teams, but there's been some pretty decent hockey now that football's over and like it's just spring training baseball, and we don't really care too much for basketball around here at the 1420 Lamb. But watching pretty decent hockey games over the weekend, and there's one kid that's kind of taking the league by storm, and I don't know if it's like I don't mind it. I don't know if what his coconut's going to be like in a few years. But this Matt Rempe for the Rangers rookie who's been all the rage, and he's kind of reminds me of the guys back in the '90s and early 2000s, just taking on all comers and fighting, and not just little fights either. Like this guy's chucking knuckles, and he's having some success. He don't seem to be scared to take on the heavy hitters in National Hockey League.
Well, he's a monster of a man. I think he's 6'5", 6'6", and like he brings a load. And I think he got in a fight. Wasn't his first game that outdoor game with the Rangers and Islanders, and he picked that fight like 2 minutes into the game, and held his own against a heavyweight. And now 5-6 games into his career, he's fighting it every other time. And like we say, he's not in a wrestling match doing a couple rabbit punches to the chin. He's throwing bombs, and the guys he's fighting are throwing these bombs back. It's great. Like I hope he doesn't hurt himself, because this is the energy and old time hockey stuff that you and I both like. I love a good fight, but I hope this kid doesn't punch himself out of the league before the year's over, because he can't fight at this pace.
Yeah, you can't think he can keep this pace up. There's no doubt about that. Like I like it. You just like you said, you hope that his health and everything else doesn't get he doesn't get mush brain later on. Cause we've seen it so many of those guys back in the 80s and 90s who CTE and everything else that happens. I don't want to bring a downplay to this, but I like it. Like it's a hockey fight, and it brings emotion to a rather emotionless game that most of the time, and you see this guy going, it's on the highlights, and people are excited. And the funny thing is about, like, you can be the I don't want to say the social justice warrior when it comes to fighting, but we've even talked about that in our age, that like you wonder about these kids not fighting, and like you wonder what, like 20, 30 years ago all those guys were getting injured, but like still the old grit grinders like me and yourself were like, you know what, this is pretty fun, this is fun to watch, and kids are talking about it, and you look in the stadiums, in the arenas, like people are on their feet, they're cheering like crazy, like it was back in 1980, 1990. People like a good fight. No matter what, you go to a high school, people stand around to watch a good fight, right? So it's just one of those things. People like a good scrap, no matter if it's verbal or physical. People like a scrap, and they'll stick around and watch.
Oh, you bet. And I don't know. Over the last 2 weeks, it seems fighting's really up. Like this Rempe kid, obviously he's getting a lot of pub right now because he's brand new on the scene. But there was a fight the other night, I want to say, in the Carolina game, and like they're letting them throw now these days a little bit
There
more.
seems to be some emotion lately. Yeah, I think it's great for the game. Like that, like laughing about, because me and Dan were talking about this exact same thing yesterday about this kid fighting all the time, and she remembers back in the old Medicine Hat Tiger days, back when they were winning championships. They had a lot of tough guys as well. And the questions like after the game, when you got home from your parents or the next day at school, was who won, or were there any fights, and nobody cared who won. It was just one of those things, right? So we're getting back into that kind of hockey again. Hockey's been really good. Like that game last night, watching Patrick Kane go back to Chicago and the retired Chelios jersey. We'll get to that in half a second. That was a great little story last night with that hockey game. And man, oh man, that Chelios, he looks like he can still go out there and play a little bit.
62. He's 62 years old. I don't know what he did, and he liked to get down. You heard stories about him back in the day.
Yeah.
How he liked to get down. But also that he was a workout fiend. And Elliot Friedman on the 32 Thoughts told of a story where Chelios agreed to the interview, but Friedman had to do it in the sauna because he'd like to ride the exercise bike after a game in the sauna. And so Friedman had to pack his sweaty ass in to get a couple questions in.
Friedman wasn't exactly a fitness fiend by any means, right? So, no, it's funny. The National Hockey League season, it's got about 25 games left. Everybody's got left, and trade deadline's about a week and a half from now. some pretty good races, and like all actuality, Dave, I'm not just saying this for content. There's 4 Canadian teams that actually have a pretty decent shot at maybe, because I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite to win Stanley Cup this year by anyone, and there's 4 Canadian teams right now that might break the 31-year drought that a Canadian-based team has won a Stanley Cup. You got the Toronto Maple Leafs who are on a bit of a heater right now, 7 in a row, and they look really good on Saturday night against Colorado. And then the Winnipeg Jets, a little bit of a slide right now, but they're in second place in their division, 1 point behind Dallas. Then you got the Vancouver Canucks, who've just been unbelievable all year long. They went on a little bit of a slide, lost 3 in a row, but then they won in overtime against the Bruins on Saturday night as well. And then you, of course, you got the Edmonton Oilers, who are still 15 points behind, or no, 11 points behind Vancouver, but they got 5 games in hand. So, but games in hand are only games in hand if you win them. It doesn't matter, right? So you got 4 teams who have a legitimate, I think have an actual shot at maybe getting to a Cup final and maybe winning the whole thing. First time since '93. Any thoughts on that?
It's good because as a Canadian fan, even though 2 of those franchises I can't fucking stand, it'll be good for Canadian content. Like I say, yes, I'd like to see the Stanley Cup back north of the border. Yes, I would. But maybe I don't. It's like one of those things. I've talked about it before. I don't know who I'm cheering for until I see the teams on the ice, and I develop a bit of a soft spot for the Toronto Maple Leafs because of my father-in-law and you. So I don't know how much my disdain. It's going to be interesting to see because it's not like the Leafs are playing any other team I like. So maybe I can throw a little bit of emotion their way.
I don't get, like, when the Leafs lose year in, year out, I'm upset for about as long as it takes me to take my jersey off. And then I'm like, whatever. I'm all right, that's it, whatever. I don't dwell on it. I don't what if. I don't think about what next year. I don't think about
shoulda, coulda, woulda.
I just like, all right, it's over. They lost again. Maybe if they went deeper, like back in '93, '94 when they went to the conference finals, you were like, son of a bitch. I mean, that's 31 years ago now, 30 years ago, right? So
when they lost to Gretzky and the Kings.
You kind of get used to them not winning. So you're like, well, I'm not going to put myself through this fucking abysmal state of mind for another season. Like, you go, all right, well, they lost and try again next year. Like, it's I don't get too worked up about that. And I saw you post something earlier on tonight on the old Twitter machine that super fans, are they? How did you word it?
Are they really? Are super fans really super fans, or are they just in it or they look at me people?
I think super fans to get to that level. Yeah, I get all this shit and everything else, but that was just for memorabilia's sakes. I think super fans are look at me people. I think if you get that worked up over a game that you have zero control over, you're looking for attention and you're a fucking idiot.
Oh, fucking idiot. Like, the reason I maybe post that, the thing, if you go to my Twitter feed, it was the barrel man from Broncos back in the day. And if you don't know, just go to the thing. He wore a fucking big orange barrel with no shirt and suspenders. You can't fucking sit down. I don't know how you take a piss. Right? So, like, you got those 2 things going
for
you.
Depends.
I guess he probably pissed in his boot. I don't know. And then it just so happened, not an hour before I saw that post, Vancouver Canucks welcome back the Green Men.
The Green Men, yeah.
Jesus, fuck. It's like, that's so tired and played. And those are great seats. Like, I don't know if that was a Vancouver plant, I couldn't imagine how much those tickets would be, honestly, like $400 to $600 a piece.
Probably 600, I would think. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking $1,200 to act a fool anytime one of the opposing team members is in the box, and I can do that without putting on a fucking green suit, unless you got a good job and you're just trying to be an asshole.
The thing about that, Dave, about those, if I have the 2 seats that aren't right beside the penalty box, if I have the 2 seats just over, and those guys are acting like that, I was like, can I get my money back?
Yeah.
Like, and this isn't old man get off my lawn. Like, this isn't. Like, they're running, jumping up and down, and like fucking climbing. And, like, I just want to watch the fucking game. I paid for these seats. Can you please don't? Like, you
I
don't.
completely agree. Right? Don't.
Like, I'm all for
Because
having a good time. Don't, like, I love having a good time, and I love entertainment, and I love the whole thing. But if usually when unless you're a season ticket holder, you usually don't get those seats very often, right? It's a one-off thing, whatever it might be. And actually, even if you're a season ticket holder, you're like, I paid fucking 30 grand or whatever it might be for these seats, and I got to put up with this. Like,
it's like
if it's a one, it used to be every game, but if it's a one off, it's a one off on Saturday night. Okay, well, I can forgive it. But if that's my one chance where I get to sit in those seats, and I got these two Spider-Man looking motherfuckers crawling all over me, I'd be a little disappointed.
I mean, unless they're nice guys, and then maybe they only get the pub when there is a penalty on the opposing team, on the visiting team. Maybe. I do not know. But these guys are all professionals. The guys in the box, they're not bothered by it. They probably get a bit of a kick out of it, right? I would rather, I myself would be just beaking at him through the cracks in the glass. That's what I do, and try and get under his skin that way. But when you're making a fool of yourself like that, you're making a fool for the cameras. You want people to see how good you are. You want to see how hard you're cheering for the Canucks. And it's so typical Canucks that this is their fucking most recognizable fans, two jackasses in head to toe green suits, right? Like, fuck, what losers. Those guys are losers.
I whatever. I mean, I thought it was funny for the first time they did 10 years ago, whatever it was.
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
All right. Okay. It's yeah. I wouldn't want that beside me game in game out personally, but some people might like that shit, and I don't know. It's weird to me. Dave, I'll ask you this question: out of the four teams that I mentioned earlier, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Toronto, which actually let's start with the team that you least want to win a Stanley Cup out of those four. I think I think I might know the answer just from the way you talked about maybe having your father-in-law maybe see his team win a Stanley Cup, and then the way you're talking about the Green Men in Vancouver. I think I know your answer already. But what team out of the four Canadian ones that are probably making the playoffs, out of those four, which one do you not like? You do not want them to win a cup this year, and why?
The leader by a fairly significant margin are our neighbors on the West Coast. Vancouver Canuck fan is the worst fan. They're the most myopic fan, and those fucking idiots riot whether they win or fucking lose. So I like, for the safety of the city of Vancouver, I hope you lose in the first round, because if you lose in the fucking final Stanley Cup Finals, you're gonna burn your fucking city down. You're 3 for 3 on that. So don't fucking tell me you're not. It'll be different this time, and maybe we won't. Fuck off, Vancouver. Like, you guys, you guys can never win it, because A, you'll never shut up about it, and B, I want you to not burn your city down.
Well, it's a public service announcement for the 1420 podcast. I agree. Like, they just don't stop. Like, they just don't stop pumping their own tires out there on the West Coast. And not that Leafs fans don't, but like, we're talking about Vancouver here. They've been to the finals, 2011, 94, and 82. So in there, and they came in the league in 1970, I think it was. So in that time frame, they really haven't done 5/8 of fuck all. Like, really, in the big picture thing.
But they got 3 Stanley Cup losses to their credit.
Yeah, so, and that's not really anything to really, like, it's more than I have, but it's nothing to write home about on the big picture things. And they haven't, and they've had some pretty bleak days in the 80s where they weren't very good, but they were playing in some pretty good Smythe divisions, obviously, with the Oilers and the Flames and the Winnipeg Jets back then. And then you look at what they've done, and just the way they've kind of handled their business the last 5 or 6 years. They haven't really been very effective. They've got a very good hockey team right now, but it's not the players' now fault that the fans are kind of douche nozzly. I guess it's not their fault at all, but it's just that arrogance that I think that Canuck fans have. It drives me a little bit nuts too. It actually, I don't know what it is. It drives me a little bit bonkers the way they tout themselves for whatever reason.
It must be something in the air in the Pacific, like so for Americans in the Pacific Northwest, like Seattle Seahawk fans, I think are cut from the exact same fucking cloth. Like maybe if you don't see the sun for 8 months of the year, then it gets you that little bit of inferiority complex. But Jesus Christ, like get a Vancouver Canuck fan and a Seattle Seahawk fan to start talking shit.
It's the same. It's the same person.
It's the same person, and it'd be kind of good now because now you got some Kraken fans in there. So now I would imagine the Americans are no longer cheering for the Canucks; they're cheering for the Krakens. Get those two fan bases against each other, and that whole fucking little peninsula on the Pacific coast might go up in flames.
If a team moved to our area, I mean, we have one just 2 hours away from us, but let's say if a team moved to Lethbridge, just for sake of conversation, if we got an NHL team or a Major League Baseball team or whatever, are you instantly a fan of that team, or like they gotta win your heart a little bit? Because we're old. Like let's not sugarcoat it here. Like I don't think I could just change allegiance for my 50 years of fandom just because a new team was in my backyard.
I'd be a supporter and a fan, but I'd have my primary. But then, considering I'm divorced from the Oilers, even though I do like of the four teams, that would be the one I would want to win the cup. It's kind of funny because when you do go to a Flames game, especially if you have the opportunity to go to an original six, you'll see a lot of Detroit jerseys. You'll see a lot, like especially Montreal or Toronto. It's like 50-50 because the old boys are there cheering for the team that they cheered for when they grew up. There's always a lot of Bruins fans. There's always a lot of Red Wing fans. There's always a lot of Blackhawk fans, and that I would imagine these fans that are cheering for the Blackhawks, the original Sixers, they are Flames supporters and they want the Flames to do well. But it's kind of fun to see the team that they cheered for as a kid, as an adult, if that makes sense.
No,
when I say an adult, like I mean a 50, 60-year-old man now. Like you're not getting after it, but you are putting on a jersey because that's what people do now. You don't put on your fucking suit and tie and your bowler hat and smoke in the stands, right? Like when you see those pictures from the back in the day.
I actually miss those days when you used to watch the old games at the Forum in Montreal and
everybody had a tie on.
You go back a long time ago to baseball games back in the 60s, World Series games, or even just regular season games. If people were dressed up, it was an event to go to a game. Now you got people jerseyed up, fucking face paint. It's just different. Like it's not worse. It's just different.
Big titties behind the coaches, with businesses on it. That's one of the funniest.
That's good marketing, Dave. That's
guerrilla marketing, right? Because it's been like 4 or 5 years in a row. There's been one or two games where they got some big titty with a bail bondsman shirt on behind him. Behind the
bail
coach.
bonds from the Bad News Bears. Chico's bail bonds.
Whereas back in the day, honestly, you look at these pictures from the old Forum in Maple Leaf Garden. 90% men.
Yeah.
90% of those 90% have a collared shirt and a tie and a suit jacket on.
Yeah.
And a hat, and then 10% of those people were fucking smoking in their seats watching this shit, right? And everybody's just like stoic. Like, how much were you cheering and stuff like that? I don't know.
You wonder if you walked into a rink like that today, what kind of look you would get. Guys our age, like, who the fuck's this guy? Would you loosen up? Trust me, man. I'm
here for the game, right?
I'm way looser than you'll ever be, man. Like if you're wearing a jersey, got your face painted, I guarantee you're gonna get way more revved up about this game than I am.
Yeah, even in the suits that have their box and go like they come from work, whether they be a lawyer, an accountant, a CPA, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're fucking if they still have a tie on, it's loose and they got the top button undone. They're relaxing, but like. I didn't have time to change, so whereas back in the day,
Dave, number 3, number 4 is the Canucks. Number 3 on your list of teams you don't want to win the cup in Canada of the 4 teams we project to be playoff teams.
This is a toss-up between the Winnipeg Jets and the Leafs. The Leafs, I have the long-standing hatred for, but like I said, my father-in-law, it would be kind of cool to see him enjoy a Leafs victory. It really would. And so, by the slimmest of margin, and because I love my father-in-law, I'm going to say I would rather. So the Jets would be number 3. The
Really?
Jets. The Jets. Yeah. Because
Huh.
I don't care about the Jets. Like this version of the Jets, I don't really give a fuck about those old Howard Chuck, Pokey Reddick, Carlisle, Kachuk, Timo Solani. I like that Jet team. This Jet team really has no
This Jets
history,
team is
right?
actually the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yeah, exactly, right. So there's nothing there. The hometown fans are not really supporting him right now,
Yeah,
and
there is some talk that they're not in desperation mode by any means, but things better pick up.
yeah, exactly. And they play in the smallest rink in the league, and in the smallest TV market in professional sports history. Like it's ridiculously small TV market. There's no national following. It's a tough road to hoe. Um, so even though like if this was the original version of the Phoenix Coyotes Winnipeg Jets, that would be I would prefer that. But I because of recency, not recency, yeah, I guess like in the last 15 to 20 years of what's happened with those two franchises and my softening of the Leafs and all the players I hated back in the day are gone, long gone. They're not in management either. Like, it's kind of funny, all the management that they got running that Leafs team, none of them are former Leafs.
Shanahan was not. No, he wasn't. You're right. No,
Yeah,
like
like
Wendell
because
Clarkson, the alumni and things like that. But yeah,
yeah,
it's
he just kisses babies and doesn't pay for drinks for a day, right? When
yeah.
he comes in. So I'm gonna say Vancouver, I don't want you to win the most. Jets, I don't want you to win second.
I I'd rather see the fuck. I'd rather see the Jets win one for the people of Winnipeg because whatever they were won, like they get a Briar now and then, and what's her name, Jennifer Jones is going to Scotties now and then with the women's curling and the odd Grey Cup rolls through there, but they never really won anything. And so that, like, for me, just for that reason, I'd rather see the Jets win because they got a like their dedicated fan base. I have some relatives out there. That's where my dad's originally out Winnipeg land, out from there, kind of sorta. And I kind of would rather see them win than the other two, just for the sake that they haven't had a chance. And they got a good hockey team. Like they got a really good hockey team for a lot of years and they just haven't been able to do anything. So maybe they're not that good. But to see the city of Winnipeg win something because it's a pretty she's she's a pretty destitute land. I don't know if you've ever spent a January
Oh
February
Christ!
ever in Winnipeg, but I remember out there 1992. It was about this time back in '92. It was some kind of cold. And so there's not a lot to go on to cheer about in Winnipeg. So I'd rather see them win than the Leafs, the Oilers. They're a little higher up on my list, but that's just one of those things.
And like I say, like the fans of the Leaf fan are going to be insufferable, more so, and that's going to be painful for me to take. But once again, this is purely out of the love and the respect because my father-in-law is getting up there, and he really fucking loves that team, and it'd be kind
Well,
of cool.
Deanne's family's like her brother and father and her father and the family and the things and the stuff and they love their Leafs. There's no getting around that. I don't think I don't think Leaf fans, if and when or when and if, however you want to word it, more of an if they ever win one, I don't think they're stupid enough to brag about it the way Canuck fans would. I think that Toronto fans there'll be a massive sigh of relief, somewhat like when the Cubs won the World Series back in 2016.
Exactly. That was the comparison I was thinking about in my head.
That's because the Leaf fans have been laughed at a lot, and they know that if they finally fall into one, there's been some misery for a long time. I don't think they're bragging.
Especially with this.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, especially with this version of the team. Finally, last year, finally, we won a fucking series. Yeah. Finally.
And then get blown out the next round.
And then so their expectations are tempered enough that they're not going to shoot their mouths off.
No, I think they're
not.
I think there'll be a parade, but I think that there's enough. And the thing is, there's enough old-time fans, like they've been around for a long time, like your father-in-law and mine as well, that have been around for a long time. I don't think that they'll be popping off. Like they'll be excited. They'll be because like the Leafs are one of those generational teams, right? Like the kids liked it, the fathers, the grandfathers, the great grandfathers, and so they haven't seen a bunch of success since 1967. So it's not like 1908 or whatever it was with the Cubs, but it's I think that they would be respectful, excited. I don't think anybody's going, fuck, we did this, we're the best. They're like, oh, fuck. They'd be relieved. I think there'd be a sigh of relief across Canada, because there's Leaf fans right across Canada.
For sure, because that's the longest streak in the NHL right now, because that was original 6 time, right?
Yeah.
And then so...
They haven't done fuck all since they went past 6 teams.
Yep, Vegas has more than them, and Vegas has been in the league for 4 years. The Oilers have, since whatever, and the Leafs were a powerhouse back in the 60s, right? They won 5 and 7 years, but all I know, the only reason I know that is because that's what the history books tell me. I read that in an almanac. I've never seen the Leafs play in a Stanley Cup final. I don't know if they've been to the final since '67.
No,
I really don't.
They haven't.
It was all my first memories of Stanley Cup hockey was always the Montreal Canadiens against Boston Bruins. That was my first memory. And then
the Islanders and the Oilers.
And then the Islanders and the Oilers, yeah. And then, like how many expansion teams have won? Like Tampa's won. Florida's been to 2.
The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.